Hey everyone, welcome back to another quote unquote podcast episode. This episode, I have my dear friend Austin with me. So,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I thought we would start with the beginning, at least, of our friendship, of how we met, because I feel like that's a very unique story.
It's a very fun story, and I
Yeah.
think we can talk about this later, but I still think we should bring Jim one time into this, if
Yes.
that would be a thing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so go ahead. Like, tell the story. How did we meet?
Okay, so you and I, and Jim, we take BART together in South San Francisco. So I initially was just taking BART, and I always see this one guy at the same time, 8:03 or 8:15. I always see this guy. Slick back hair,
Yep.
some a t-shirt with a backpack and some long jeans, and always the aviation shades and earbuds. Um, One time he just waved to me. I waved back, introduced each
Yep.
other, talked a little bit, got into the topic of food and motorcycles and how much I love Filipino food. And one day, um, you come along and he introduces the both of us and we're just looking at each other like, hi.
Hey.
Essentially, we all took BART together, and we started talking about food, friends, what we do, our everyday lives, and
And the
we just
rest
started
is
hanging out.
history.
Yeah, the rest is history. I mean, I later on, actually, no, this was back in October, before your birthday,
Yep.
and it was when I was also starting a lot of the cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was during that week where we first met, where I invited you to, or maybe it was the week after, where I invited you to brunch
Yep.
with my friends and my coworkers, and I was just cooking for everyone.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, so you came over, we had food, like I would just cook for you, and we would cook together, and we just have a nice conversation afterward.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Yeah. Dude,
after work.
I think what's so crazy about our story is, okay, it hasn't even been a year yet, right?
No, it hasn't.
And I think because we started hanging out a lot when we first met,
Hmm.
and I was talking to like my coworkers and my friends, and I was like, I'm like hanging out with my friend Austin, and obviously people will be like, "Oh, how'd you guys meet?" And I'm like, on the BART." And I think that was
Casually,
the
just on
funniest
BART.
thing, because obviously
Because
we
I
became
don't.
very close very quickly, and it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
how do you guys know each other?" It's like, "Well, we just met a couple weeks ago on the BART."
Randomly. I mean, I think there's this stigma that it's hard to meet strangers or like in atypical places. Like you wouldn't think to meet a friend or meet someone on BART and just instantly connect with them.
Yeah,
But sometimes life happens where it's the most random and you don't expect it.
for
So I think
sure.
that's what made it so fun. And I mean, you were very easy to talk to. I mean, we're both kind of like shy at first because
Yeah.
I mean, we just had like neither of us knew Jim. He just introduced us, so he was
Yeah.
our kind of bridge point, and it was just like, oh, here's Austin, here's Vanessa. All right, go at it. I'm just like,
Yep. It's so funny because, yeah, without Jim, I don't think we would have really talked to each other.
no,
But Jim, let's talk about him for a second. He's
yeah, I
such a
love this guy.
friendly dude, because my story with him is exactly the same. Like, I would go to the BART every morning, like, take around the same time train,
Hmm.
and then I would see him, and like maybe the second or third time that I saw him, we would just like make eye contact, and then he started waving at me, and I was like, "Hi." And
I
then
remember him telling us,
it took us like 5 times to actually like exchange words, because the first couple times we would just like greet each other with a wave, and then he would start saying like good morning and things like that, and then I guess we became friends all of a sudden, and then you show up and I'm like, oh, he must have done the same thing to this dude.
yeah, like you got roped in too, huh? But you omitted one part that I think was the most funny. It was that when he first waved hi, you gave him a look of like disgust.
Okay, no, that's so not true. That's definitely just Jim's antics and him like him like trying to be funny. I didn't do that. I was I was I was friendly, I would like to think.
I just love him when he's telling his stories because he'll just like who exaggerate a lot of things,
Yes.
but he just has a sense of humor that it's just so comforting and
It
warm.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's like you instantly know he's a great guy.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely like good vibes. And I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah.
sure he has a couple other like Bart friends other than the two of us
Oh
because he's
yeah,
just
for
so
sure.
friendly.
hmm I think like he told me about this, and I'm sure you know. He used to be a surfer bro,
Hmm.
like a beach bum.
Yeah,
So I was like, oh dude, this guy's just super chilling and just literally coasting through life.
I know. Uh, I miss Jim.
Me too.
I haven't
I
talked to him
needed
in a
I
while.
need, or rather, I wanted to text him and see how he's doing because I actually haven't talked to them since all this like thing was going down, and
Yeah.
I definitely don't see him at bar because
Yeah, we
that's
don't do
not
that
a thing.
anymore.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you mentioned very soon after we became friends was your brunch at your
Ah,
place.
yes.
That just like, let me give everybody context. So Austin is like,
No.
hey, I'm having brunch. I'm hosting a brunch at my place in like a week or two. You should come. I'm like, okay, sure. Like, sounds fun. Brunch with a group of strangers. It's cool. It's not something I typically do, but I was like, okay. And maybe the next day or two, you show up to Bart with a menu. And I'm like, oh, this dude like really likes to cook, like really cook, you know? And I was so impressed at your brunch. I think everybody was.
Thank you. It was kind of hard for sure because I mean I couldn't really host it upstairs inside because there were like 15 people. People were going in and out, and we needed space to plate food and make everything. I mean, you know my kitchen, it's
Hmm.
tiny compared
Yeah.
to most people's kitchen. So, like, living in a condo, you can only do so much. And I had 5 dudes, including myself, doing all the well, I
So
did a whole bunch
tiny.
of prep the previous night, but I had 4 other guys doing the cooking and bringing stuff down. I mean, what did you think about it other than, the whole setup and what was going on?
Honestly, it was amazing. I thought it was like super well planned. Like I guess I didn't know what I was walking into when I arrived.
Zero
Uh,
expectations.
I didn't have any expectations, high or low, right? Other than like I knew the food was going to be great. But like I got there and first of all it was a super sunny day in South San
Mhm.
Francisco, which never ever happens.
It's rare.
So that was so great. And like going to that like back patio-ish area, like it looks like it was made for picnics and brunches.
hmm
So that was so great. Like we just got there, sat down, and I mean, I literally knew zero people.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
but I think everybody got along. Um,
hmm
and I mean, I guess that's something that I wanted to ask you about because there were people from like kind of all areas of your life, right? You had a bunch of your coworkers, and then you had your high school friends who I guess were helping you do the
hmm
cooking and like serving and stuff, and people from like college, all sorts of like areas of your life. Like, what made you bring everybody together? Like, did you have any sort of apprehension in bringing together people from different areas of your life?
I didn't. So typically, when I first brought some people together, um, it was always another group with high school friends because my high school friends we've been together and we've gone through a whole bunch, and we're all really close because of all the experiences in high school. So they're a big part of my life. Another group of people who were also big in high school were people I worked with at Purple Cow, this boba place in San Francisco. And I've tried to bring them together a few times. They didn't really mix and mingle too well.
Hmm.
So I thought, okay, maybe I should just keep these groups kind of separate because they didn't have too many things in common or relate to talk about. So in a sense, I was always scared to bring people together, and I always kept these specific groups separate. But when I started, at least back in October, with all the cooking and everything, and have and like who I would choose to bring to this brunch, I thought about just anyone who wanted to try my food. Anyone who had messaged me before and was like, "Hey, I've seen you cooking. I've seen what you do. It looks amazing. Is it possible to like try someday?" And this was just a golden opportunity to bring people together. I actually didn't have any plan or idea of who wanted to talk to who. I just said, "All right, here." I put up 4 tables, but everyone sat at 2. So that says a lot. I'm just like, I didn't plan for any of this. Y'all did it yourselves of, you know, bringing the picnic blanket out and just setting it out over there. Like that was all up to the individuals who went or the couples who went and sat themselves. I didn't see it anyone, but as you saw, my coworkers sat at their own table. It's very, common coworkers. Just
Mm-hmm.
they're
Stick
comfortable.
together.
Yeah, they stick together. But as for the couples like Serena and Ben, Jen and Wilson, you, Agnes, Charlene, they're all individual. Like you guys are couples or individuals that came together because you had a commonality of we don't know them, but they all sat together.
Yeah.
So this was the only other table that people were at. So like, why not?
Yeah.
And and then everyone got to know each other. And when they were telling me that it was such a great time, I was like, that's so awesome. I'm sad that we didn't get to like my friends, my high school friends didn't get to come out and actually talk to you all. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure they were excited too, but we had a different time in the kitchen. It was chaos, but it was super fun. I was yelling at them, they were yelling at me. It was just pure fun in its own right, but we definitely missed out on the whole conversation with people because one of my friends, Steven, who came up to, or who talked about it afterward, because he was cooking with me in the kitchen, was like, "Yeah, I wish we could have actually sat down and chatted with everyone outside." I was like, "Bro, you have no idea. I would have loved for you guys to chat because some other people, like a few of my coworkers, have met my high school friends because we would play board games together.
Mm-hmm.
So, we would see them occasionally, but there are definitely few coworkers that I don't typically hang out with outside the office. So it was nice bringing them in. A bit awkward because one was from HR, but she was cool. At least I thought she was cool. So I mean, she loved supporting me, and it was just all these people who genuinely just wanted to try the food, and I was excited to present something to them. So I went all out with grabbing the furniture from somewhere, making a menu, inviting all these people, and just like designating everything. And prior to all of this was practicing all these platings so that when it came to, it was like, all right, this is going to be something that you would remember, something that you would enjoy, something different, and it was just supposed to be fun. There
Yeah.
wasn't anything specific other than having a good time and enjoying yourselves.
Yeah.
So that's why I pulled all these various people. And sorry, but even when going into your birthday party, it was the same idea, and I definitely enjoyed that because I jumped around so much,
Yeah.
and I left my high school friends who I also brought to your party, and I was just like, "Yo, nice to meet you, Vanessa's friends." Just hey. I think the best one was you did a How I Met Your Mother kind of thing, like Have You Met Ted, and
Yeah.
like bounced.
Yep.
You introduced me to 2 of your coworkers. And I was like, hey, remember the guy I was telling you about who made the cake? And
Yep.
you were like, you just got a cake from a guy from Bart.
Yep.
That's that
So
guy. I was like,
that was very easy because like you had just made me the cake for my birthday and like I had that on my actual birthday and then the weekend
mm-hmm. Yeah.
following was like the party, right? And so I show up to work with this beautiful cake, and obviously people are going to want to know where it comes from, right? So I was like, so I have this friend who I met at the BART, and he made me this cake. So obviously, if you're at my party, my coworkers came too. I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is the dude. Go
Yeah.
have fun, hang out, get to know each other. Okay, bye.
Yeah. It was very, I was like, what? You just, oh, what? I didn't even know what to say. I was like, hi, yeah, I swear I wasn't trying to poison you. Don't worry. I mean, you're standing here right now, so, I mean, was the cake good? I hope it was.
It was really good. It was good. But yeah, I mean, going back to the brunch thing,
Hmm.
like the whole experience, whatever you intended, you succeeded. Because I know it was like chaos and whatnot in the kitchen, and there was a lot to
Hmm.
get together. But like from the guest perspective, we got there, like we sat down, we mingled a little bit, and like got to
Hmm.
know each other, and then just like food came out. It was like eating at a restaurant essentially. Like there
Very
was a
long one.
menu, and then like drinks came, food came, and your plating was incredible. Oh, and the best thing we gotta tell the listeners about this, that you had,
Oh.
I remember, I don't know if it was for all the plates, but for like the fried chicken one at least, you had one plate just
Hmm.
for pictures.
Yeah.
And I say this about, I think maybe in the beginning I said this about you a lot more, but you're one of the most extra people I know. And I say that in like the best way. Like that's a huge compliment.
Oh, I'm very glad you said that. Dude, I love being extra because it's just I love to be different. I don't want to be someone who just goes by the norm and does very, simple things just to get it done. If I'm gonna do something that I enjoy, I'm gonna go all out. You
Yeah.
best believe I'm gonna plate this up. I'm gonna serve it right. I'm gonna pair it with this and do all like go miles to entertain and host and just you know, full experience.
Yeah.
It's from the picture, or it's from coming in to the picture, to all the conversation, to the drinks, and just continuing forward so that everyone is like having a good time. I sadly, I think I only did two plates that were just for specifically for pictures because I didn't have enough. I didn't realize I didn't have enough ingredients. Um, and so some of the
Wait,
portions were
I
much
need to
smaller
actually
than I had
feed people.
imagined. Yeah. So yeah, I love being extra, just going all out, and I don't like doing things half-heartedly because it just doesn't work. It's doesn't fulfill me in the way that um like not mediocre, but how do I say things I do every day.
Hmm.
It's times like these when you're coming in for a meal or friends are coming in for a meal. It's if you want to eat, oh, best believe you're gonna eat, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna make you remember it because
Dude, it shows. It shows.
yeah. So even when we cooked a lot, and while we were cooking, I'm sure you saw that we'll go get ingredients, we'll come back, we'll prep, and even when doing all of it, when we're finished cooking, it's like no, we're plating and we're
Yep.
taking pictures,
Yeah.
and then we eat.
Yeah. Of course. Phone eats first. Camera eats first.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one of the times that I went over to your place and you're making something. God, I can't remember anymore, but I was taking a picture of it just like for the memes. And I put it on your table and I took out my camera and it was gonna be portrait mode anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And you're like, oh, hang on, I gotcha. And then you bring over this like wooden board and then set it behind it. I was like, dude, you're the most extra person I know.
Oh my god. I remember doing that, but I don't remember for what. I
Yeah, I don't remember what it was anymore, but that stuck with me.
Oh man. Oh, that's so funny.
Speaking of you being extra and like sort of transitioning to next topic,
Hmm.
when you first met your current girlfriend, Jackie, I
No.
remember this was like this was basically
Ah,
October too. It was pretty soon after we started
yeah.
being friends.
She was at
There were
your party.
yeah, exactly. She came to my birthday. And a couple times like I would see you with like a tote bag coming to the bar with food, and
Hmm.
like you would tell me and Jim like what's going on, what food you have, and I'm sure you made a lot of things, but
Hmm.
the one I remember in particular was the flan. And
Yeah. No.
you experimented a ton with that. But God, I remember you coming to the bar one day. You brought like little mini jars of flan for
For
me
you
and
guys to
Jim
try. Yep.
for us to try, which was amazing. And then you were also like, oh, I'm meeting Jackie today, and I have one for her. And then I peep into your tote bag, and you've got a giant plate. You've got the flan in whatever vessel it's in that you're gonna like transfer it to the plate later. And then you have like what at first looks like just a folded up piece of foil, and
hmm
inside was like the sugar like
The caramel.
drizzle
Yeah.
caramel thing that's like in its shape so that you can put it on top. And for anybody who's watching the video or like seeing this on YouTube, I will leave a picture to it or a
Oh,
link to a picture so you
no.
can see what I'm talking about. But it was
No.
so extra, and like I don't know why you're embarrassed about it. It's amazing. Like,
Well,
respect.
all right. Let's bring it back a sec. Let's bring it back just a sec. The reason why I did all that was because it was you who initiated all of this. Let's be real. It was you.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you. I totally appreciate it. Because you had asked me like, well, I had just gotten out of a relationship a few months prior to meeting you. What you had asked when we were first initially talking, and we're talking about relationships over like food, like I don't get how you don't have a girlfriend or whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, I just got a relationship, so on and so forth. Um, and you brought up this idea like, dude, you should just do this for the girl that, like, whatever girl that you're going to go after next, and just use food as your segue into, literally segue into her heart.
Obvious to me.
I don't know.
It seemed very obvious to me. I was like, dude, you're cooking anyways.
So
What
might as well do it
girl?
for.
Exactly. And I mean, you took that and you ran with it. Okay. I didn't tell you to do I didn't tell you to plate a picnic in the middle of like Fi-Dye or wherever you guys had that.
Okay, that
But
one
like,
was really fun.
you
That was
ran with
actually
it,
really,
you know?
yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't expect to meet anyone during all of this. I mean, I told you that I made a mistake, and I was posting, like, I posted our food that I made when we were, like, the dinners that we had when I was making for us on Subtle Asian Cooking. And, I saw a whole bunch of people liking the post, enjoying it, sharing it with their friends. And one day I just, and I told you about this, I was like, yo, I made a mistake. I made a huge mistake,
Mm-hmm.
which was I posted this kind of, not ad per se, but it was kind of like, hey, I'm experimenting with pasta because I'm really new at it. Anyone in the Bay Area who wants to try, let me know. Send me a direct message. And I just got flooded with a whole bunch of things.
I don't know
And
what you were expecting.
I didn't think the community was that big. I didn't think there were so many people in the fucking Bay Area that actually was on this thing. I mean,
Uh-huh.
given that, yes, people allowed to see it, but who would take it seriously? Like, I didn't think anyone would take it seriously. I think it was like a few people here and there, and we call it done. It turns out there's like a flood of people, so I had to meet set expectations. Like, yo, I'm just very beginning out. This is like, because there's so many, this is going to be like the minimal cost that I'm asking to just help me with the ingredients and paying those back. I'm not even like, no service charge, no nothing. Like, I'll deliver to you, so on and so forth. We'll meet up. And lo and behold, my girlfriend, my current girlfriend, comes along and just, hey, I like to buy some pasta. I didn't expect anything, but I told you when we were getting coffee, like a day or two after, I was like, yo, that girl was really cute.
You were sheepish about it in the beginning, because I remember your precise words when you first talked about her, and you were dropping it off, and then you met her a second time. I don't remember if it was to give her a second batch
Yeah,
or
it was a second batch, but it
so.
was after your birthday.
Okay, you met up with her and you said something Jackie, and you said, oh, she was intriguing, and I was like, oh, interesting. And
Interesting.
you
And
didn't
then
say anything more, but the next conversation you had with me, you had met her up a second time. You're like, oh, okay, so I went to go see her again to drop off another batch. I don't know why, some lame excuse of like, I want to get to see her again.
No, it was not a lame excuse. It was a legitimate excuse and
uh
concern.
sure.
Okay, no, we're not ending on that note. So I had just provided her pasta, and I looked back at a bag that I saw at the office. I saw a bit of mold, so I was concerned. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna be responsible and like have someone just like sue me out of the like out of the blue, and I didn't want to make anyone sick. So I messaged her again. I was like, hey, look, I messed up on this batch of pasta. Let me provide you a new one. Um,
Mhm.
so I gave her an extra bag, and I asked you for the cake that I had made you. I said,
Mhm.
hey, is it
Yeah,
possible
we'll
to
get
put it in
there.
this
We'll
box?
get there.
Is it possible to put it in this box so I can like gift it to this girl? Because like I fucked up on her pasta. Like, I feel really bad. Like I truly felt really bad about it. So
Mhm.
I wanted to do something to make up for it. And it was just like, oh, there's dessert and there's, fresh pasta that she can eat. So, I had to make it worth it because I don't know, I just had expectations that people were like, I'm never going to do this again, or were very skeptical, like even more skeptical. And
Mhm.
I was just afraid that someone's going to get sick, and I didn't want that. So I
Sure.
wanted them to, I wanted them to be okay and happy, and they enjoyed kind of the service I provide, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So when I when you were talking to me about this, let's talk about the cake, right?
Hmm.
So you made me this cake and you brought it on the BART, and it was like nice and boxed up. Looks like it came from a store. And then you're like, hey, so you know that girl that I dropped off the pots to the other day? I kind of messed up her batch, and then so I'm gonna give her another one. But I also want to give her this cake. So I bring it to work, and this is why, like, as I'm telling my coworkers what's going on, I was like, hey, like, my friend made me this cake. But also, seems like he's really into this girl that he just met. And so I'm supposed to cut a slice away from this cake and then box it in this box that he gave me
Love
and then
you.
drop it back off to him. They're like, oh, okay. In my mind, it was so clear. I was like, okay, so he's definitely into this girl. Like, I don't know what's going on with the pasta, another batch, but like, okay.
Wow.
I was like, why don't you bring her to my birthday party? Just another excuse to hang out. I got
So you want to go on with that?
you.
Oh, there's a whole story with that. Oh my god. Because after that, because when I dropped off the cake to her, I just thought it was gonna be drop off, leave.
Mhm,
It turns out we ended up talking for like 15 minutes or so, just kind of like, I just wanted to get to know her, like some of the people that
mhm, mhm.
I had previously given pasta. Don't make that face. I mean, when I was dropping all these pastas off, a lot of it was just like quick and here you go. Thanks for supporting. I'm gonna bounce.
Mhm.
But
Something was different with this one. I wonder what it was.
I'm gonna leave it to everyone's own imagination.
Sure, uh-huh.
But it was like I wanted to meet some people along the way, and hope that I could befriend them. And so this girl just chose to sit down, and I was drawing, and I was like, hey, there's a cake in there for you. You're happy to do what you want with it. Same with the pasta. And she asked like, hey, is it okay if I eat it here? I was like, it's okay. You can do whatever you want. So
Ah.
that with me, I was just like drawing and just light introductions, very very minimal small talk, and you know we were just talking about food afterward.
Let's talk about now we've talked about like the beginnings of your relationship and how that all came to be.
Hmm.
How now it's been not a year yet, but I guess almost a year. How has it been going through the actual relationship?
You know the beginning parts. because I had some things to chat about because you had more knowledge than me when I was talking and asking you questions about you and Matt and how that went through. Um, like going throughout all of this has been very interesting and also very eye-opening because I had zero expectations of what this is going to be. I don't know what our girlfriend's experience is like. So I go into this blind. So that's why I had so many questions to you about like, what did you and Matt do for so and so, and what is it that made your relationship so strong, and what did you guys do to work things out? Um, I still try to communicate this over to my girlfriend today, where it's like, look, we have to talk, and not everything's gonna be easy. Not everything's gonna be straightforward. There's gonna be a lot of ups and downs, like any relationship, very typical. But this has taught me to just be patient with someone, and you know try to understand and kind of revert myself back to understanding a different individual's perspective and putting myself in their shoes and just kind of see what they're going through. But other than that, this relationship has taught me a lot, and I'm very happy with my girlfriend right now.
Mhm.
And you already know I'm at her place right now. It's been. I mean, there are struggles every now and then with more personal issues, but even still, we try to enjoy all of our time, and we cook a lot. She's been cooking with me because I allow her into the kitchen. um, we kind of take things easy when we can. It's been great. How about yourself? Like, how's being with Matt and everything? I know at the beginning you went down, you were really excited, and I also know that you enjoyed being away from home,
Mhm.
or home as in where you live in South San Francisco. So
Yeah.
how's everything been with Matt and you?
It's good. Like we're very used to each other. I don't know. We've been together for such a long time that it's nothing new for us.
Mhm.
And we definitely know how to entertain each other, so we don't get bored very
Cool.
frequently. And also, like, we've both been super busy with work, so
Mm,
it's not like we're in each other's face all the time. And I think we're also really comfortable with just like spending time alone, even if we're both at home, just like having our own time. Because I mean, no matter where you fall in the whole like introvert extrovert spectrum, I think everybody needs to introvert a little bit.
mhm.
So we both like kind of have our time of, like, all right, I just like need to be by myself a little bit, and it's not anything weird between the two of us. I think with my conversations with other people and like my other friends, I think a lot of couples are learning that, especially in quarantine now. If you're
Mhm.
quarantining with your significant other, like, you still need to have your alone time. And I don't think that in a normal world that's something that
Mm.
you have to bake in so artificially, right?
Yeah, but
Like, now you have to
going
kind of
on
just.
that, yeah, going on that though, I do wonder, like, how do you communicate to your significant other, like, hey, I need, my alone time? Like, what do you say? How do you go about it? And what happens if they don't understand why, or they think negatively of like, oh, you don't like me anymore, or so on and so forth? Like, what what do you do, and how do you communicate to a significant other? Be like, hey, I still love you, but I just need some time to do my own thing.
I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is like in how you phrase it, because the reality of the situation is like, all right, homie, I just need a little space to breathe. But that's not how you should ever say it to your partner,
Yeah,
because that doesn't sound good. Like, who wants to hear that, like, I need time away from you, even if that's the reality of the situation?
yeah.
Like, between Matt and I, now, I mean, we can just say it and it's whatever. Like, we don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Matt will just be like, "Hey, I'm gonna just be in the room a little bit." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like, I'm out here doing my own thing. Um, but I would just like, between the two of us, I think in the beginning, we would just ask, right? Instead of be like, "Hey, I need some time." just to
Mhm.
just say like, hey, is it okay if I'm just like in the room like watching videos or something, because that's generally what we'll do in our alone time.
Mhm.
um, I think in short, I would just ask for permission, even though you
Mhm.
don't really need the permission. It's always nice to be like, hey, is it okay if I just like spend like 30 minutes or like spend an hour just on my own? And
Mhm.
if you put it like that, it's very hard for people to be like, no, that's not okay. I'd rather you not do that. Every individual is like kind of on their own path to discovering like learning how to be alone, like learning how to enjoy their own company and like discover their own hobbies and interests outside of a relationship, right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, when you're in a relationship, especially in the beginning, obviously you just want to do everything together, right? And I think there reaches a point in a relationship where you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't sustainable. Maybe we have to do a couple things on our own, and that's okay.
Mhm.
I think generally the issue that happens is that couples don't reach that point at the same time. um, and in that case, like you just have to be patient. I think for a lot of people, and this is something that's happened to me personally, when somebody comes to their partner and is like, hey, it's okay if we do things apart, if we do our own thing. Actually, like, I need some space to like do my own thing. And like I said before, that's never something that you want to hear from your partner,
Mhm.
even though you know that logically it makes sense.
Yeah.
For me personally, like a lot of it comes from insecurity of like, oh, you want to do things on your own, like does that mean that like I'm not good enough? Like
Mhm.
all of these sorts of things. And I mean, I say that for me personally, but I think there's a lot of people that that's applicable to.
Mhm.
And as a partner, I think as a partner, you just need to be sensitive to those types of things because you don't want to hurt your partner, right?
Right.
And as difficult as it is, I think sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and be like, okay, let's just spend some more time together and do things together until your partner reaches the point where they're cool doing things on their own. And I hate to put it this way, but like until they get a little bored of doing things together, because the people will reach that point, right? I think that's just a natural thing. If you spend like 24/7 with somebody,
Mhm.
eventually you're gonna need some time to breathe.
Yeah.
And once that clicks, it's like, okay, cool. But
Okay.
as a warning, like I don't want to present this as like a linear timeline where like everybody like reaches the point and then they're good, because
Mhm.
I think these things totally ebb and flow, right? Like you could reach the point where you're like, hey, I really need to like do my own thing for a little bit, and then you could revert back to like, wait, let's do everything together.
Mhm.
So it's tricky, like you just have to
Yeah.
kind of meet in the middle a little bit. And I think as both people grow up a little bit, and learn to see both sides, you can meet in the middle even if you're not in the same spot.
That makes a lot more sense now. So that's a very great advice that I can use. I mean, I've just been kind of struggling with some things. It's like when there's any issue, I see very simple solutions. It's like you do this and you're good to go. But for her, it's like that doesn't work. So when I want to just explode and be like, "What the fuck?" I have to tell myself like, "Yo, hold up, just breathe, tell
Hmm.
her calmly, and just like, yo, here is my suggestion to you of how to solve this. It's a way of seeing things, not necessarily something you have to do, but it's just, hey, if I was in your situation, this is what I would do. You don't have to do any of this. You can do whatever is most comfortable with you, um, what makes the most sense to you, and what makes you ultimately feel better. So I just have to keep pulling myself back because I am a very impulsive, quick to the point, like, let's go.
Hmm.
No, that's not how you do it. but it's like, stop, 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 pull it back.
I tend to think like guys in particular like to just like they hear a situation and then you just want to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
This is super common, but I think a lot of like girlfriends, if they bring something to a relationship, it's like, oh, this is like bothering me. Not really looking for a solution, just looking for the like, oh, sorry about that, or like, oh man.
Yeah,
And then
that
that's
like empathy kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, like, more than 50% of the time, you know what to do. And obviously, as you grow older, like your intuition gets a little bit stronger. But I think for a lot of girls, like when this kind of stuff comes up, it's like, oh, like I'm not really sure what's going on, or like this happened and whatever, whatever. Like half the time they know exactly what the next step is, but like so you don't really need to hear what it is. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to like get that off your chest. And half the time in the conversation it's just like, okay, well anyways, it seems like I'm going to do this anyways, and then it's all solved. you know
Yeah, I guess still with the patience thing for me, it's I expect things to be solved so quickly that I lose track of how much time actually like she needs to take in order to solve something for herself.
yeah, and you got
Yeah,
to let people like go on their own path. And
yeah,
oftentimes like you don't know, even if you hear from the person like what kind of issues they're going through, like you don't know exactly what it is, and you don't know all of the inner turmoil of like why things are taking so long, that
mhm,
99% of the time it's completely justified why things need to take that long. So from the outside it might look like, oh, why aren't you just doing X, right? But to that person, and I've been that person, it's extremely clear why I need to like either take my time or like go this way, like take these steps before either like reaching a decision or like not doing something, whatever it may be. There's like completely a reason why, right? Even if it doesn't look like it from the outside.
got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is why I love the conversations like these because it gives me a much bigger perspective from a different side. You know, talking with others like, hey, what have you been through? What have you done? And, you know, what are your thoughts on what I should think to do or not do at all?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I love asking you these questions. So thanks.
I love talking about this kind of stuff.
I mean, I always wonder, like, what are, when you're talking about these things with your friends over these podcasts,
Mhm.
like, what has Matt thought of these conversations?
Great question.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting like conversation that you would be having with them because you know you have a specific like point that you advocate for, you talk about, and then your friends also have either agree or you know they have their way of communicating. And when I listen to you podcast, I'm just like I have something to say to that, or like I can in my mind I have my own thoughts, and it's just interesting. Like yeah, that's true, but you know there's something like this. You know, it's just this is why I find your podcast so interesting and fun. So I'm very curious to know what you know Matt
Yeah,
thinks.
definitely. I mean, obviously, like he has a couple thoughts. I will say, and I think this would come as a surprise to a lot of people because obviously like we talk about some like controversial things, and
Mhm.
sometimes as you listen to it, right, it's like we're having a conversation. So I hear feedback from friends and they're like, oh, like I thought this and this when you said that, right?
Mhm.
But for Matt, for the most part, we agree on pretty much everything. Like he's like, oh yeah, that made a lot of sense. And like I've gotten feedback from his friends, and like his friends think a little bit differently, but honestly for the vast majority of what I talk about, Matt and I are very much on the same page. And like it's not that he doesn't have anything to add, but we're just very aligned on a lot of these like larger topics, I'll say.
Yeah. No, when you talk, I think it was your first or second podcast where you were talking about your friends and kind of like training.
Yep.
I definitely related more to you to the women than I do with the guy.
Oh, really?
Because like sometimes slowly I'll start to do some things with my girlfriend and it's like, hey, this is, can you not do that? Like this is a way not only for your benefit, but this helps me out. So, more of a safety and precaution thing of like, or just a general, this is what I like. And if you don't like this way, that's okay. Let's find a way to do it. But it's like slowly picking at things and just kind of like, hey, maybe not do that and do this. Or let's maybe try this out when you're trying to ask me questions and trying to direct things. Or if you want to communicate, this is very vague, but like, if you want to communicate a certain
You can be specific if you're open to it.
most of it's like the kitchen stuff. So it's like,
I can see that.
hey, cut it this specific way because it'll cook more evenly. Or if you're trying to ask me what I want to do or go somewhere, why don't you put it this way so that it's easier for me to understand and this is what you want to do. A lot of what I'm trying to advocate for is, for my girlfriend to be her own person and to have her own mind. So I'll make decisions every now and then when I feel strongly about it, but most of the time it's, hey, you don't seem to get to do what you want to do, and I want you to be happy. So what is it that you want to do? Think for yourself. Like I can tell you right now what I want to do. I want to go bowling. I want to go play some games. I want to eat. I want to cook. Like I have very simple needs, but it's because she hasn't had a lot of like development for her individuality. It's picking at certain things of like, hey, what is it that you want to do? Here's like she loves making plans, but not like before. Plans don't always go through. So it's like, hey, trying to say, okay, if this plan doesn't work, what's plan B? What's plan C? If we had this conversation actually yesterday, and it was very, not difficult, but it was very emotional. But it's small steps like that I try to advocate to make her think for herself and trying to help and guide her to what she wants. And for myself, it's like, hey, when you do that, it makes it easier on me. And I'm happy, you're happy, we're both like, at least this is what my mentality is. Because I think there's a lot of internal struggle that she has and is trying to go through that needs this individual confidence that to kind of help her move along with what she wants.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's a couple things that I'll say. I think in terms of like figuring out what you want and like whether it's as simple as like what to do or like major life decisions, I feel like I've said this multiple times in our conversation, but like everyone's on their own journey, right?
Yep, everyone's on their own. But sometimes like it's, at least for myself, it's hard to find your own journey. So it's nice to have a guide or at least someone there. And that's what I would like to be there for her. Like she's on her own journey for sure, but I just want to be like either standing enough away so that she can travel on her own and let her do her own thing. But she can come back whenever and ask me questions or have a shoulder to lean on.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's exactly it. Like you have to be apart enough, right? You have to like step away metaphorically
Mm-hmm.
enough, but still kind of be there. And I think like the best thing to do is just to be encouraging about everything, right? About whatever it is.
I am your hype man. You know it.
You are good at that. Like I can speak to it more personally because I don't know, I hate to just like make everything about gender dynamics, but
Mhm,
like I think me personally, I'll just speak to myself, and I think I talked about this a little bit in my previous episode with Bethany. Like
mhm,
I have been on my own path of figuring out what I want too. And I don't know if I said this so explicitly in previous episodes, but I've had like my own private conversations with these friends.
mhm,
Like I have definitely gone through a whole journey, and I am still going through a whole journey of like figuring out what I want, especially outside of a relationship, because I have had so many of like my formative years being with somebody, right?
mhm.
Figuring out what it is outside of that, what I want outside of that has been a journey, right? Um and back to, I guess, the gender dynamics thing, I think a lot of females, or at least me, like it's very easy to just go along with whatever your partner wants
Mm.
because I really don't like to make this about gender dynamics, but like let's just talk like heteronormative standards. Like guys are brought up to like be very decisive. This is what I want out of life, etc., etc. Whereas females aren't necessarily pruned that way, right? And we're taught to be very caring. We're taught to be very like uh, sensitive, and so that's almost like the natural inclination to be like, oh, you want to do this? Okay, sounds good. And like almost internalizing that, right? And to put that away can be very difficult. I don't want to speak for all females, but
Mhm.
at least for myself, I can say that that's a difficult thing to look past, because if it's been ingrained in you for so long, it's hard to just put that away.
Yeah. So that's I remember you talking about I remember this from your previous episode. It's being, being this supportive sub character rather than your own protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not funny, it's more interesting that I actually relate more to that than I do the normality of, you know, the men or guy side for that gender norm of
Mm-hmm.
I always know what I want, I always know where to go, like that assertiveness that I always need support. I think with this relationship I'm more prone to understand that side of things where someone does need some of my support, more so than I thought originally, and I didn't think I'd ever pick this up or realized it in my previous ones. And looking back at my previous relationships, I think they could have used a lot more support from my end. And I don't know why I chose not to be that, or there were some things I could support, but there was something in my mind that it seemed too much, seemed overbearing. Um, but I think with those experiences that I've collected, um, I think I found someone where I can actually direct a lot of my support to, and I definitely don't need to be the protagonist in my story. Like I want her to, funny enough, I want her to be her protagonist for a story. So I'm just, finding these ways to be as supportive as I can and just trying to make her life easy, in the way that there's in her things that she has to worry about aside from the rest of the world. Like let me do the small things for you, like don't worry about that. You have midterms coming up, you have finals coming up, you have to deal with moving, or you have to deal with jobs or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have my things kind of like decently sorted out. Nah, decently sorted out, we all know that that I'm a fucking mess. I have at least enough where I have some leeway and be like, hey, look, don't worry about the dishes, don't worry about the food, like don't worry about dinner, like I'll or lunch or anything, like I'll figure that out. Like I can do that. These are some small things that I can take care of for you. Like so, don't worry.
Yeah.
It's let me take off some of the stress off your plate, and because it's easier for me, it's not stressful. So focus on what you need to do, and let me just help you in the smallest ways that I can. That would just ease up your day or life.
Yeah,
So
definitely. I think that's good. I think that's very helpful. The only thing I'll say is that like there's the backing away like physically where you're like doing all these things and saying like okay let me just like take care of these so that you don't have to physically like do the dishes and that's going to take up time where you could be doing something else.
mm-hmm.
But I think there's also just like backing away mentally, and I don't want to project, but if I were in that situation, it would almost seem like there's a lot of pressure to, you know, figure my life out or like do whatever it is that I need to do. And like I am worrying about it, but I also don't want my partner to be worrying about it, right? Because if I've got it, then they don't need to worry about it. And so in your case, like it would probably benefit from you just like stepping back a little bit mentally and saying like, hey, actually, you know what, like you got this, I trust you. Like I mean, I got the dishes and everything like handled anyways, so you don't have to worry about it, but like I'm also just like not worrying about it because like
Mm-hmm.
I know that you have it handled. If you need my help in anything, like if you want my thoughts, then like feel free, I'm right here. But if not, you know, like I'm just gonna be cooking and doing my own thing, right? So like it, just like having you focus on your own life almost helps that other person because it like kind of gives them
Mm-hmm.
the mental like aloneness to think about it.
Okay, that makes okay. I'll test that out too. Try it out. I mean, yeah, that's definitely a struggle that I have internally of just taking a step back from things, and you know, my girlfriend has the same issue or same or a similar mentality where it's hard to take a step back from things. So I think it's having another person like yourself or a third party just be like, yo, you try this and try to step back. I mean, I've heard it a whole bunch of times, but I think it's how to do it where I don't physically or I guess I don't mentally either know how to step back from everything because it seems so hardwired into me like, hey, you gotta support and do what you can. But now it's like I guess a lot of it has to do with balancing of uh, supporting a certain amount and letting them and supporting them in the way where you don't do anything at all. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll definitely have to kind of
Yeah.
trial and error this.
It does sound like kind of counterproductive because you want to be supportive or like counterintuitive because you want to be supportive, but sometimes the best way to be supportive is just not do anything. I feel like a lot of that, not that I'm a parent or anywhere close to it, but I feel like from stories I've heard, like parenthood is similar where if you want the best for your kid or anybody you love,
Mhm.
sometimes the best advice isn't going to come from you, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear stories about like teens and like their parents say something and they're like, okay, whatever. And then like their cool older cousin or like friend says the same thing and they're like, oh, and all of a sudden it like they get it. Sometimes like it just can't come from the people closest to you.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is just like let them let them do their own thing and figure it out.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, dude, I don't care what you say. You're just my mom or you're just my
Yeah.
dad. Just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, no, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So the last thing that I'll bring up is kind of going back to brunch and the beginning of our conversation.
All
Uh,
right.
and I guess the beginning of when we started being friends.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I'm sure that I noticed about you in the beginning, and I'm sure a lot of people after listening to this conversation will notice, is that you are a very, very generous person, right? I mean, we got the brunch example, we got the crazy pasta example that I don't understand, but like you're beyond a normal level of generous. And I know a lot of great people, right? But you definitely stick out. And I just kind of wanted to dig into that a little bit more. Like, I know when we first started becoming friends, I had brought this up also about like, how do you ensure that, like, how do you vet the people that come into your life? How do you make sure that they're, that they're good people and that they're not just taking advantage of your generosity?
So, all right. Um, First things first. If I cry in this podcast, I blame you. You're just the only one to blame. um, so a lot of this had to start with my grandparents raising me as basically one of their own kids. My mom was single mom, was working all the time. So when my grandparents had passed away when I was a sophomore in college, um, no, no, my second, third year in college, when they passed away, it was a very difficult time. Uh, and the most memorable thing that I could think about them was their hospitality towards people. It's doesn't matter who it is. When people came over to our house, they would always be, "Hey, have you eaten yet?" It didn't. It was never a question of uh, like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" It's more of, "Hey, you enter my home. I'm going to treat you like my guest and treat you like one of the people I care about. So, are you hungry? Have you eaten yet?" Um, it's providing this kind of comfortable environment with everyone that I meet. I don't have any intentions of, you know, using you to get to my advantage. I genuinely just want to get to know you and just be friends. Like for anyone that I meet, it's like, hey, I want to share something with you that is important to my life. And if you are all for it and you want to, be friends and connect with me in that way, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Um, a lot of the friends that I have, there's just something about them that after multiple conversations and multiple interactions, it's just, you seem like a genuine person that I would enjoy having in my life. It's not just, hey, I want to be friends to get upper hand. It's not, hey, I want to use you to get, X, Y, and Z. It's like, hey, if that's how you want to see it, hey, I'm okay with that. I honestly just want to, you know, be happy and just kind of carry on this legacy that my grandparents had kind of brought up on me. It's making friends with whoever you can and sharing things that you enjoy with them. So yes, there aren't going to be everything. There isn't going to be multiple levels that you can, connect on, but it's okay. A lot of the food that I put out is something that I think about constantly and always want to make better and always want like people to critique on. Um, but it's also sharing a part of me that my grandparents had taught to me. Like one of the stories is that my mom had told me when when we're at the funeral was or prior was my grandpa actually learned how to make dim sum for to impress my grandma.
Mhm.
So I was like, dude, that's the sweetest thing. Like he went to culinary school for about a week or so just so that he could provide and do something special for my grandma. I was like, yo, what the fuck? Um, and so this is just my way of connecting with people. And I don't know, food has always been a easy bridge for me because everyone needs to eat. Everyone wants to feel comfort and filled and, you know, wants to feel well. Um, so it's something that I couldn't provide to my grandparents back in that day. So in order, at least for me, in order to make up for it, is to carry on their hospitality and their generosity to my friends and friends of the future, current friends, new friends, past friends, just those who I think seem genuine enough to be a part of my life and are around when they can. It's always a back and forth, because when you put out something, not everyone would be you know be the same way. So it's those little moments where people are the most encouraging and the most supportive of your ideas, and whenever they can be there for you, they will. It's those people that are true friends and will always be a part of your life. And I don't technically choose them specifically. Some of them just kind of happen. Like, you're a great example of that. Like, I never thought to meet someone so fun and enthusiastic, and just have so much insight and wonderful stories, and when need be, can criticize the hell out of you if need be. So it's nice to have those that have a genuine caring and supportive characteristic towards whoever they meet. And it's those people that I can connect with the most. Sometimes it could be a little bit awkward because you don't know what to say, but deep down, I think a lot of it is, hey, you seem like you want a friend, and I seem to want to have a friend, and through something, in some way, somehow, it seems that it just works out. Again, going just back, and I know I'm going in circles, but just going back to my grandparents,
Yeah.
I never really was able to provide or help them out or do anything before the passing, and I look back all the time and just reminisce. So it's nice to be able to do it for people now,
Yeah.
and just provide them, provided that, like, this is what they taught me, and this is what I want to share with everyone.
What an incredible story. Oh my goodness. If once you become like a really famous chef, Flip is gonna make it into your documentary.
Oh,
for
God.
sure.
No. No.
Once
Oh,
you're on like Chef's Table, there's gonna be a cut to this scene talking about your grandparents. Well, I don't think there's a better way to end it off with that heartwarming story. So I feel like this is a good place to pause, and then we can do an episode 2,
part two.
a part 2 at a future time. But Austin, thanks so much. Thanks so much for doing this and sharing it with
Yeah. Thanks for having me on thanks for having me on this podcast, Vanessa. It's been great talking to you and catching up. And you already know I always love talking to you. It's always so fun that, like, we started at like 12. It's now 2:30.
Yeah. Yep.
We can talk for hours, like we said. And each conversation that I have with you is always fun, and it always gives me more insight. It gives me more ideas. It gives me, a lot of hope, and it just makes me genuinely really happy to talk to you.
Thank you. Likewise. All right. Thanks, Austin.
All right.